The rain was coming down in thick, freezing sheets against the windshield of Mark's sedan. He sat in his dark driveway with the engine off, clutching a heavy iron lug wrench until his knuckles turned white. Up on the second floor of his newly purchased home, a faint yellow light flickered in the bedroom window. Mark lived alone. He had locked the front door himself 20 minutes ago. But as he watched, a tall, gaunt silhouette moved slowly past the glass. The figure stopped, turned toward the driveway, and pressed a pale palm against the pane, looking directly down through the darkness into Mark's eyes. To understand why Mark was sitting alone in a cold car on a rain-soaked November night, holding a wrench and staring at his own dark house, we have to go back 6 weeks. Mark was 32 years old and worked as a quality analyst for a pharmaceutical supplier. After 3 years of saving, he bought a 3-bedroom craftsman home on the edge of eastern Pennsylvania. It was built in 1924, featuring original oak woodwork, a stone foundation, and built-in cabinetry throughout. The seller was an estate representative who knew very little about the house, only that the previous elderly owner had passed away in a nursing home 8 months prior. At first, life in the new home was peaceful. Mark spent his evenings painting the living room and setting up his home office. But during the second week, small irregularities began to accumulate. Mark was a meticulous person who kept his belongings neatly organized. Yet he noticed minor changes. A half-empty cup of coffee on the kitchen counter seemed slightly repositioned when he returned from work. The thermostat, which he set to 68 degrees every morning, was repeatedly sitting at 72 when he walked through the door. He attributed these small discrepancies to his own fatigue and the adjustment period of moving into an unfamiliar space. By the fourth week, the minor oddities turned into genuine concern. Mark noticed a faint scent in the hallway outside his bedroom. It was not the damp smell of an old basement, but something distinct like fresh lavender soap mixed with faint ozone. He decided to measure the second-floor rooms to order new carpet. While using a laser distance measure, Mark discovered an unexplained discrepancy. The exterior measurement of the upstairs hallway was 28 feet long. However, adding up the interior lengths of the 2 adjoining bedrooms left 4 feet of dead space entirely unaccounted for behind the hallway linen closet. On a quiet Tuesday afternoon, Mark brought a flashlight and a screwdriver to the upstairs hallway. The linen closet was lined with fixed cedar shelving that seemed completely permanent. But while examining the rear wall, Mark noticed that the lower brass mounting brackets were missing their original screws. Instead, they rested on magnetic catches. He pulled firmly on the third shelf. With a quiet wooden friction sound, the entire rear panel of the closet swung inward, like a heavy secret door. Beyond it lay a narrow, dark corridor built directly between the internal walls of the house. Mark stepped through the opening into the narrow space. He expected to find dusty insulation, loose cobwebs, and copper piping. Instead, he found a neatly carpeted floor lined with foam floor mats. At the end of the narrow 6-foot space sat a clean foam mattress covered with a fleece blanket. Next to the mattress was a half-eaten apple that had barely begun to brown around the core. A stainless steel thermos rested on a small wooden crate, and when Mark touched the metal exterior, it was still noticeably warm to his touch. Someone was actively using this hidden room. Mark raised his flashlight, his breathing growing shallow in the tight space. On top of the wooden crate lay a small yellow spiral notepad. He opened it to the first page. Written in precise blue ink were detailed timestamp entries tracking his daily life. The notes recorded the exact time Mark left for work each morning at 7:45, the exact minute his car returned at 6:12, and even the lights-out times in his bedroom. Below the timeline, a small note read, "He bought the light roast coffee today. He likes the hall light left on." A cold chill swept through Mark as he realized the truth. For 6 weeks, an unseen stranger had been living inside his walls, observing his routines and stepping out into his home while he was at work or sleeping. If this story is keeping you on edge, please take a brief moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Suddenly, Mark heard a soft metallic scrape from the ceiling directly above his head. Someone was inside the attic floor joists above the hidden corridor. Mark backed out of the closet, pulled the panel shut, and sprinted down the stairs. Terrified, Mark ran to his car in the driveway to grab his phone and call the emergency dispatcher. He reported a home intrusion, but because there was no active break-in through an exterior door, The dispatcher placed the call on normal dispatch priority. Mark sat in his vehicle engine idling, watching the exterior windows of his house. The suburban street was completely silent beneath a heavy downpour of rain. That was when he saw the light turn on upstairs in his bedroom window, leading directly to the terrifying moment from earlier that night. From the front seat of his car, Mark stared upward at the second-floor bedroom window. The gaunt figure stood motionless against the yellow glow of the lamp, its face shadowed by the wet glass. Then slowly the figure raised its right hand and pressed something small and metallic against the window pane. It was a spare brass house key attached to a familiar blue lanyard. It was the backdoor key that Mark had lost from his kitchen counter 3 weeks ago. The intruder was not trying to hide anymore. He was letting Mark know that the house belonged to both of them. 2 police cruisers arrived 15 minutes later, their headlights slicing through the dark rain. Officers swept the home with weapons drawn, clearing every room and searching the secret corridor behind the linen closet. The mattress was still warm, but the hidden space was now completely empty. Upon closer inspection, officers discovered a small crawlspace hatch near the floorboards of the secret room. It led into the crawlspace beneath the porch and exited through a loose wooden lattice panel outside. The occupant had slipped quietly into the dark woods behind the property before police could set up a perimeter. Police dusted the space for fingerprints, but found only smudges from fabric gloves. The identity of the squatter remains completely unknown to this day. Investigators could never determine whether the intruder had been living in the hidden room long before Mark bought the house, or if Mark had been deliberately targeted and followed from his previous address. Mark sold the house 2 months later at a significant financial loss. Today he lives on the 8th floor of a high-security apartment building with 24-hour concierge and keycard access. Yet every single night before he goes to sleep, Mark still measures the gaps behind his furniture. Because deep down Mark knows that simple deadbolts can be unlocked, but some secrets are built directly into the floorboards of a home. Sometimes the most unsettling, terrifying monsters are not supernatural entities, but silent human strangers, who simply choose to live in the shadows right beside us without making a sound. Thank you for spending time with us tonight. If this unsettling account gave you chills, please support the channel by liking the video and subscribing for more dark alleged stories. Have you ever discovered something unexplained inside your home or felt watched in an empty room? Share your own true encounters in the comments section below.